Before we begin, this one is for the ladies. If you have a uterus, you've had a uterus, or you just love someone trying to navigate what it means to live inside a body that actually bleeds, you're in the right place. If this is not your experience today, no harm, no shame. I will see y'all next time. And for everyone staying, let's settle in. We're about to go someplace real. Hey y'all, welcome back to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, your not so typical self-help podcast for high responsibility helpers who are tired of pretending they are fine. I'm your host, Shauna Lovin, a seasoned therapist, Texas LPC supervisor, 3-5 emotional projector, and a total tree-hugging auntie rebel who believes healing can be natural, of course, with compassion and a little cussing. If you're watching on YouTube, listening in your car, hiding in the bathroom at work, or staring at your ceiling at 2 a.m., baby, I already know what kind of week you're having. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. Let me tell you about a summer where I almost let my body convince me it wasn't falling apart. It was maybe early 2009, and I had learned later that July happens to be Fibroid Awareness Month, which is funny in a way because I had zero awareness. What I had was a body that had been ignored, not by my doctor. She's incredible. She kind of came along during this process, but she is an OBGYN. She is thorough. She is kind. She actually fucking looks at you when she's talking to you. She is the one who delivered both of my babies by C-section years later, but I digress. So let me be clear. She was paying attention in this process. The problem was that I really wasn't. The problem is that I have been so well trained to absorb discomfort, to adapt to inconveniences, to keep showing this running regardless of what was happening behind the scenes. And there was this I had been quietly managing my symptoms for I really don't know how long before I had even said them out loud. So, heavy periods. Not heavy, quote unquote, for me, but heavy in a way where going to the bathroom, you're trying to do the math as soon as you stand up in any setting that you're in to try to clock your time from the chair to the bathroom. Heavy in a way where you pack a bag like you're going freaking Armageddon and you're preparing for a minor emergency every single month. I had normalized this. I had filed it away like it was under some inconvenient but manageable space. And I kept it moving because there were clients and sessions, a job, people, family, whoever who needed me to be present and functional and available. I made myself present and functional and available, and somewhere in all of that availability, I stopped being available for the information for my own body was trying to send me. When I finally went in and described honestly what was happening instead of just downplaying it, because people with fibroids, we tend to do that. There she was. She understood. She found them. They were fibroids. Yes, they were benign because that's what they are, benign tumors. Harmless in the technical sense, yes, but they're real. They're there and they are louder, and then I was willing to hear what they were saying. And there's this thing where I wanted to say before I could say anything else, because this is the part that matters to me the most. I knew better. I am a trained clinician. I know what chronic override looks like. I teach this. I can do this in my sleep. I talk about it all the time. And still, somehow, I had turned my own body into a patient I wasn't willing to admit was struggling. That is how deep this goes and how it runs. This is how completely trained can kind of take hold of what you need to do for your own self. You become so fluent in tending to other people's signals that you develop a kind of selective deafness to your own fucking body. So this is about cycles. And I mean that in every direction of the word, biologically, historically, energetically, and lunar. Because I think we have been handed some profoundly incomplete story about what our cycles actually are. And I think the incomplete story has cost us a lot of something we haven't fully named yet. So let's go back further than 2009. When all this started for me. It's not a textbook. It's a little bit further than that. There's this novel called The Red Tent. And if you haven't heard of it, the author imagines this interior lives of women in the book of Genesis, where Dia, the daughter of Jacob, and it's centered around this is about the whole book is centered around this tent. Yes, it's red. This is where women of the household gather when they bleed, where they rest, they tell stories, they cook, they pray, and where they slept, where they genuinely excused from labor of the community, not as a punishment, not as something shameful to be hidden, but as a place of recognition, as a community structurally acknowledges that the body was doing something significant. And significant in this time deserves space. Excuse me. Now that I am not here to romanticize ancient life of women, it was not a golden age, let's be honest, but the image has stayed with me since I read it, because what it names is something that has completely been lost over time. The cultural acknowledgement that your cycle is not an obstacle to your productivity. That in fact, the whole system, biological, emotional, energetic, that runs alongside your life, whether you make room for it or not, it's there and it's moving without you. And when you don't make room for it, it doesn't just disappear. It's just underneath, underground, and finding other ways to just get louder. Okay, let's have our brief biology moment, because context here matters the most. I'm not going to make it boring either. So we all know that your cycle, if you still have one or you had one in the past, you know that it's not just bleeding, right? Yeah, that's part of it. It is a 4-phase hormonal event that shapes your energy, cognition, and your emotional bandwidth. Your nervous system every single month. After your period, estrogen rises. Most people feel more outgoing, more social, more like what quote unquote themselves. This is the spring of the cycle. Around ovulation, you hit a brief peak, communication gets easier, energy is up, and you feel more present. That's your summer. Then there's the lutein phase, the 2 weeks before bleeding. And this is where this kind of gets a little interesting for helpers specifically, because your progesterone rises and then it falls. And when it falls, it takes your GABA with it. Your GABA is your brain's natural calming mechanism. So neurologically, in the week before your period, you are working with a very thin buffer. I'm just saying. Your threat detection is slightly higher. Your capacity to override what isn't working is actually reduced. And what that means is that all the things that you've been managing, tolerating, and white knuckling through, they're just harder to suppress during this time. Not because you're falling apart, because your body has temporarily removed the filter that was letting you pretend everything was fine. Yes, and we call that PMS. We treat it like it's some fucking malfunction, but it's not. It's your body doing a system audit on everything that you've been refusing to look at. And then when the bleeding actually starts, both hormones are at its lowest, the veil is at its thinnest, and this is the phase where it's designed to be inside, quiet, inward, less performing. This is your winter. Your body has always known winter is part of the year. It's when we decide that we are too important to stop. So if you are a helper, if you are showing up in these sessions, to these shifts, to other people's crises, to these high stake decisions across all 4 of these phases, identical, without any accommodation, without acknowledgement, without even your own awareness that the landscape shifts every week, your nervous system is doing an extraordinary labor that it was never designed to do. And we're not supposed to do it consistently. And let's put another layer on this. The fibroids, the heavy bleeding, the burnout that feels different from regular tired, the irritability you can't quite explain, the week before your cycle where you suddenly can't stand your life, that's not you being too much. That's the bill coming due from your body. I also kind of want to jump in and say, like, PMDD, this is part of this cycle as well, except for it's just on a grander scale. So here's the part that I almost didn't say because it sounds a little woo. And I know some of y'all are skepticals of that. And I need you to just stay with me for a second. Your cycle and the lunar cycle were never meant to be separate pieces, bodies, or entities. Before artificial light, women led by the moon. The new moon, dark and inward, still aligned with the menstruation cycle. The full moon is bright and outward and generative, aligned with ovulation. This was not folklore invented to make women feel special. This was the body in this actual rhythm with something outside of itself, a rhythm that had something to do with productivity or usefulness or what anyone needed from you. It wasn't about that. And in the chakra framework, the sacral chakra, which sits in the lower abdomen, which is your energetic center of creativity, feeling, receiving, and belonging to yourself. This is where we store all of that. And it's all being overridden. It's all being suppressed. And all the years of treating your cycle like it's an obstacle instead of the actual information that it is. And here's what I want you to hear about that. Because I felt it in my own body and I've watched it in other people. Helpers tend to be very good at giving, which is your solar plex energy, willpower, drive, performance. We are much less to practice what it means to be at receiving, and we're not really good at that. At flowing instead of forcing things, letting our body lead instead of some calendar. And when you chronically override your sacral energy, when you chronically suppress the phase of your cycle that was designed for rest and inward turning and a truthful telling space, something starts to accumulate. Not metaphorically, physically, sometimes. Yes, physically. Ask my fibroids. They will tell you the largest one was the size of a grapefruit. So there's that. I'm not talking about claiming that emotions are caused by fibroids. That's just part of the story. I want to be careful here. Fibroids are a real physical cause. They deserve medical care. And I got mine. And if you want to know more about that, just let me know in the comments. But I want to say that I'm not saying that my body had been trying to get my attention for a long time before I actually listened to it. And once I actually started working with my cycles instead of around it, tracking it, adjusting my schedule to it, building rest during the phase that's designed for rest, what shifted wasn't dramatic. It was very quiet. It was a quiet of something finally stopping from this screaming that was happening internally. Now, more recently, my cycle has started to change and shift again. And I have some symptoms. Well, at least some days I think I do. And this is the beginning of menopause. And I'm not sure that I'm ready for that yet, but there's this weird perimenopause adjacent space that starts to happen. And your body recognizes itself that you don't need the cleaning label anymore. That's kind of like this in-between space that requires me to tolerate ambiguity about something that I thought at least halfway understood by this time, which is kind of annoying, honestly, if you ask me. You're in this in-between phase. But anyway, I'm not going to dress this up, and it's annoying to feel like you don't quite know what's happening in your own body anymore. And again, after years of finally learning how to track it and how to trust it, it's like, bam, it shifts. So now this is what I've kind of learned, and it's kind of messy, and it's still all information that our body is giving us. The cycle has changed the information. The body has recognized the information. The same curiosity that I had to learn to practice with the cycle I had is the same curiosity that I'm needing to practice now without one. And it's just the beginning of something different. Stop trying to manage the symptoms. Get curious about what is the message that's kind of happening. And that takes some real work. This isn't just about never stopping to ask, what do you want, or who do you need, or what needs to happen. It's more about just taking the time and listening to your body for the message it is trying to give you. So here's the reframe that I want to leave you for today. I want to say this plainly because I think that some of y'all are in real physical pain around this. And I don't want, to gloss over this. I don't want to paper over this, that it's a spiritual language. No, because some of y'all have cycles that are debilitating. Let me tell you, this is what derails your life. Those are the heavy or painful or unpredictable, that idea of making meaning feels like if it's an insult. And I hear that. And I'm not asking you to love that part of you because it's real. I am asking you to stop treating your body's rhythm like a scheduling conflict. Your cycle has always been the one part of your life that's been instant on rotation. That's been the most consistent thing of your life. On the beginning and to the end and to the beginning again, it's there. It doesn't stop. It has never pretended to be that production that is only valid mode. It's always carried the winter inside of you. It's always made space for the phases where nothing is supposed to grow because the ground needs to rest. Your body has been trying to teach you this since you started this whole thing as a teenager. And the conditioning that just kept telling you to push through, you were so good at pushing through, but that helped you forget where you were going and what you were really supposed to be doing. You were not built to run at the same speed in every season. That is not a flaw. That is the whole design of you. If something in this episode landed somewhere in your body today, if you recognize yourself in any part of this, the overriding, the managing, the body sitting signals, and you were just too busy to read them, let me know in the comments what landed for you. I would love to hear where you at and what you may be struggling with. If you're curious about reproductive health personally, I can help you with that as well. Just send me an email and I'll be happy to talk and share resources with you. And I really want to leave you with this. I want you to take care of your whole self. Not just the parts that look good on a calendar or a piece of paper, but your whole self, because you know that your body has been communicating to you for years, and it's time for you to listen to them. Until next time, I'll see you later. All right, my loves, that's another episode in the books, and I'm out. Now, I need you to go drink some water, touch some grass, get a sip of sunlight, take a pause, and stop acting like your nervous system is optional. And yes, you are basically a houseplant with complicated emotions. If you needed this today, tell me about it, tell me what landed, hit follow, and send this to the I'm fine friend who is absolutely not fine, and you know who I'm talking about. And if you want to work with me, everything you need is linked in the show notes because Auntie doesn't do energy sucking DMs. Okay, love you. Bye.